truthfully speaking, I've always felt that handshakes go further than handcuffs. Hi, I'm Michael Hearns. I was a South Florida law enforcement professional for 27 years. During 27 years, I lived and worked in Miami, Florida. I was a detective in the Vice Intelligence Narcotic Unit, which is basically called the VIN Unit. For those of you who might have a hard time understanding what that concept is, it really is basically the true and actual Miami Vice. From the 1980s into the 1990s, I spent 10 years undercover in the Medellin and Cali drug cartels of Colombia, posing as a money launderer. A lot of times, posing as a money launderer, my work kept me rooted in the tri-area of South Florida, Palm Beach, Broward County, which is Fort Lauderdale, and Miami. But I did spend a lot of time also doing cases and working a lot in Los Angeles and New York and Montreal. One of the things I'd like to talk to you about is that, truthfully speaking, I actually had no desire to be in law enforcement growing up. Growing up, I wanted to be in advertising and marketing. I thought that was going to be my calling. I love to draw. I love the creativity of it all. And when I came out of college, I needed a recession-proof job. I first worked for the airline industry. And as the airlines started to deregulate, I found myself being what they call furloughed, i.e. fired. So I wanted a recession-proof job and fell into law enforcement. I applied to the U.S. Customs Service, the city of Miami, and the city of Coral Gables, which is a municipality in Miami-Dade County. And I chose Coral Gables. Don't ask me how, don't ask me why, because I still don't know why, and I still don't know how. We were very progressive in our department, and we were very forward-thinking. And we were very assertive in how we did things. And we basically created an anti-money laundering task force. And I found myself working side by side with U.S. Customs agent at Operation Greenback. And then I also bounced around to different other DEA groups. And for 10 years, I was undercover. I was Mike Bonner, not Michael Hearns. I was Mike Bonner. And in that 10 years, me and my team seized close to about $99 million. Our first seizure ever was a $25 million seizure, which at the time was one of the largest cash drug seizures in law enforcement history. That money became the seed money for what we now know as HIDTA, high-intensity drug trafficking areas. The way we did our job, local officers commingled with federal agents, became almost like a branded method for a new style of law enforcement. And that's how we started to see a lot of these drug task forces. We were the prototype for that, unintentionally, but we were. And so due to the success we had and the money we seized, the $25 million, became seed money for HIDTA, South Florida HIDTA, i.e. Miami was the first HIDTA. Now they're in Boston, Dallas, Denver, Los Angeles, other cities. So that's basically my background. I'm an ex-SWAT team member. I was a lead penetrator on our team, which is the first guy through the door for 3.5 years. I'm a certified officer survival instructor. I am a certified DEA instructor. I've instructed at every major tier 1 bank and financial institution in the United States, as well as many law enforcement centers. And that's me. So I spent 10 continuous years undercover, and that's a very long time in that environment. Usually most people spend between 2 to 4 years at the very most. For me, it became a begat situation. First of all, there were multiple cases involved at the same time. So sometimes it wasn't so easy to just slip out of it all and go back into a different part or different division in the department or the police department. So because I had a finger in so many pies, I just continued and continued. We were successful at what we were doing. We were averaging almost $850,000 a month in cash seizures. So you created and cultivated relationships with attorneys with a reputation in the Colombian drug cartels. So it's not as easy as you think it is as to leave a successful thing. This would be like asking a main character in a Broadway play to step out of it, even though it's sold out for the next 6 months. So it just became an ongoing environment. And as for me, it really wasn't that hard a deal for me. I think it's because I have a high absorption rate. I was able to absorb it all fairly well. I do recognize now that I no longer do it, that it's very much like being in a hurricane. You're in the center. And when you're in the center, everything is calm. Everything else is spinning around you. It's when you leave the center that you start to see the destruction and disarray and everything else. And I think that being centered and in the center, I was kind of insulated. I recognized what we were doing. I recognized what I was doing. I recognized the ramifications of what we were doing. But it seemed so natural every day to get out of bed and roll out, jump in the car, and start working my cases that I just never really gave it much thought. I tell people this all the time. My brother's a golfer, and I'm not a golfer, but my brother is. And when he goes to tee off, he stands there for 6, 4, 5 minutes, and his elbow here, and shoulder this way, and neck this way, and eye on the ball this way. And when I golf with him, I'm like Happy Gilmore. I just get up and whack it. And it goes, 220 yards straight down the fairway. And they look at me and they go, "How do you do that?" And I go, "I don't know." And I think it's because I don't give it much thought. I don't think about what can go wrong. I don't think about the things I'm doing that are not proper. And when I was undercover, I didn't think about what was going to go wrong. I had total faith in my people that I was working with. I had total faith in the equipment we were using. I had total faith in the way we set things up. So that faith was part of a magic carpet that kind of carried me over those rough clouds. So the 10 years kind of came and went very fast. And in looking back at it, it was, I'm going to be 60 in November. It was 1/6 of my life that I was somebody else. So it was not always clean. It was not always easy. And every year I was undercover, somebody I worked with, shoulder to shoulder, ate lunch with, talked to, did cases with, either killed themselves or went to jail. So this was not a clean business. And it's not for the faint of heart. And you need to have an edge to you. And I embodied all of that, but was able to temper it. Law enforcement is a very conventional business. Everything is very time stamped, and reports need to be written, and things need to be documented. But the drug trade is one of the most unconventional businesses there is in the world. So you had to have a foot in one and a foot in the other. So one of the things that was going on with us was that, we were steering the ship and being steered by the ship at the same time. It was a new frontier. What we were doing as far as seizing currency from the cartel had never been done before. You have to recognize something. Cocaine, for all intents and purposes, grows on trees. It's the coca bush. You pull leaves from the bush, you harvest those leaves, you process those leaves, you cultivate those leaves, and you process them into coca balls, the coca paste, and you make kilograms of cocaine. When you seize kilograms of cocaine, the cocaine trafficker, all he or she needs to do is go back and pull more leaves off the bush and start the process all over again. Money doesn't grow on trees as much as we wish it did. It doesn't. So when you seize currency, you negate everything. The cultivation of the leaves, the processing of the coca, the distribution of the coca, the bribery of public officials, the transportation of the coca into North America or Europe, the selling of the coca, the selling of the cocaine on the streets of America or in the streets of London or wherever it may be. And all that money now starts to funnel back towards Colombia. Well, when you step into that chain at that back end and you seize that currency, you have negated everything. And we were successful coming out of the gate. We were successful to a point where we surprised people. People weren't expecting us to do what we were doing. And part and parcel to that was my personal upbringing. I tell people all the time, I was raised with drug traffickers and money launderers. And sometimes a person's destiny is found on the road they choose to avoid. I grew up in a small municipality in Miami, right near Miami International Airport. I was a firsthand witness to the Iran-Contra loading of aircraft. I knew the guys who were loading those airplanes. I went to high school with those guys. And I had people in my hometown who were airline pilots for Eastern Airlines or for Pan American Airlines. And they were all ex-Korea War or Vietnam War fighter pilots who missed the adrenaline rush of flying in under the radar. So on their days off, they had no problem flying shoes from San Domingo or ganja from Jamaica, as long as they could get the salt spray of being 6 feet off the Atlantic coastline on their windshield. So, these were the guys who I saw every day. These were the guys who I called Mr. This or Mr. That or knew them. And it was a very odd dynamic. It was almost like that Warner Brothers cartoon where dog and a cat chase each other around, and then the whistle blows and they punch out and they go home and they say, see you again tomorrow. Well, I grew up with U.S. Marshals, DEA, those people in my neighborhood, and I watched them chase these guys Monday through Friday and then sit at the bar, shoulder to shoulder on Saturday, sit in the church pew on Sunday, and then start it all over again Monday through Friday again. So by osmosis, I had a great understanding of the drug trade and drug trafficking, and I also knew people in the business. So when I got hired in law enforcement, I did my requisite 3 months of training on the road with a field training officer. I spent one day in a patrol car, and I got sent to the city of Miami to start doing street narcotics. And I spent 3 months doing street narcotics. I came back to the city of Coral Gables. I worked on the road in uniform as a patrol officer for about 5 or 6 months. I kept getting called up to the detective division to interview for VIN, Vice Intelligence Narcotic Unit. And oftentimes those interviews were conducted in Spanish to see what my comprehension was. And from there, someone, I think I know who, but someone in my agency tapped into, I don't want to call it a skill set, I will call it upbringing, and recognized that they could capitalize on it. And I got sent to U.S. Customs in Greenback. And I was the litmus test. If we were successful with one of us going over there once a month, there were 4 of us at the time, I was the second one to go. If we were successful in making seizures, we would keep going. And that kind of goes hand in hand to what I said earlier. It became a begat situation. We became very successful very quick. And because there were no rules, we were able to make our rules. And some of those rules actually became laws eventually. So I'm really excited to be here. It was great being here with Tweezzle TalkTV. Tweezzle TalkTV is bringing great instructors, great knowledgeable people right to you. And one of the best things about Tweezzle TalkTV is these concise, smart, short, but to-the-point instructional videos that they bring to you. So tune in next time and enjoy yourself.